in the truck this evening. Just left the farm. Rain quit just before dark, about 2 hours. I guess it's been raining all day. And boy, you can tell that those deer were bedded up and wanting to get on their feet. Missed a couple of feedings. And they were out in full force tonight. Seen a couple of really good bucks. And even had a buck that I haven't seen show up in one of the fields. So good night. We are in creeping up on that ever so popular time of the year where things start showing up. You never really know what's going to pop up on your cameras. All your hard work, you think you've got everything pinpointed out, and then you've got some new guys show up, which is great. Tonight's video, what we're going to talk about, as we're taking the time here before we head out of the farm here, what we're going to talk about is the transition, the truth behind why bucks transition. Now, this is going to ruffle some feathers probably, into each his own, but I'm here to tell you that this video isn't something that I just plug into once a year and talk about and have no experience doing this. This is something that I see religiously. But with that being said, is there's a myth. I guess the best way to explain it is there's a myth. There's a myth and there's a practice that folks tried to implement to try to combat the myth. Now, if that makes any sense here, and we'll talk about that, talk this through. So this time of the year, you're always hearing this. The deer are coming off from our food sources. They're not using our food plots. They're going into the oaks. I just talked to a couple the other night in Tractor Supply, and as you're walking up down the aisle next time in Walmart, keep your ears open, because it's something that everybody experiences. They get into 2 weeks into the season, 10, usually 14, 16 days into the season, and they're experiencing a lull. Well, the reason that you're experiencing a lull, like we've always said, and I'll say it 100 times more, 1,000 times more if you continue following the channel, is the lull is the real deal. The problem with it is the lull is not created by what folks think it's created by heat and deer moving into the oaks, and they're just away from your setups. And the reason that they're there is because of pressure. So on the header of this, I have a pressure gauge, if you will, and that's something that I resort to when I explain a lot of this issue to my clients. This is the reason that they don't continue to utilize those relatively available food sources such as food plots. Is one of the biggest reasons. There's many, but one of the biggest reasons is they're pressured off from those food sources. 2 weeks into the season, I can always tell whether it's an outfitter, flip on social media, whether it's an outfitter, whether it's an individual, whether it's whoever it is, saying that they are transitioning their cameras to their scrapes and to into the timber to find the deer. Let's go find them. We got to find them. They're doing their homework. They're on the on the trail looking for new sign, and they're after new deer. Well, here's the thing. New deer need to be coming to you. That intel from new deer needs to be showing up to you. You don't need to be searching for those new deer. Now, if it's a lease where you're just going into it, or it's a public ground deal, then that's a different story. But if you're hunting private ground where you could have had, or should have and could have had it all set up and ready on a promoted line of travel through a transition area, and also through the aid of the licking branches and being non-invasive. So 20 days into the Kentucky season, I have one sit. That one sit showed a few young bucks, and also does and fawns that read the script and went past the stand just like they were supposed to. Now, the reason that I'm not in there is because I've got plenty of younger bucks showing up on camera, but I don't have the deer that I'm ready to go after yet. But when he shows up, I'm already ready. I'm already there. I know the transition. I just have to figure out how he's getting from point A to point B, and not blow his food source. So that food source that you should have been treating as a sanctuary, such as your bedding areas that you're not blowing into now, or haven't already in the early season, which most folks understand. And if you haven't learned that yet, don't go crashing in early. That's the reason we don't hunt a lot of mornings. We wait till the evenings in the early season. And then what happens is the folks understand that, and then they crash onto a food source in the early season, and you blow that food source off, and now what we're left with is what, you know, a couple of the deer tonight on a far alfalfa field that I can see from my place, where the future front porch will be of the cabin. So I'm not parked out in the field. I was parked in the driveway. Is deer are right at dark. Now, 2 weeks ago, those same deer that I seen were out at 4:30. So put the pieces of the puzzle together, and you start seeing this pressure gauge that I talk of on there. This pressure gauge is dialed up from 1 to 10, and the problem with it is in a 90-day season, we're already creeping up on the pressures at 8 right now, and creeping up, and these deer have had it. They've put up with it for 2 weeks, and if you are seeing this in a low pressured state, multiply that by 10 in a state such as Michigan, New York, you know, parts of Ohio, out east, these deer are not putting up with this. They are switching, they are transitioning because of pressure. It's that old theory of going to, the best way to explain it is going to a family event. Let's say going to Thanksgiving, and there's always that pursuer. There's always that cousin or mother-in-law or whatever the case is. Not everybody gets along, right? Don't take this to offense if you're a cousin or a mother-in-law, but it's that pursuer is following you around. So you go to the living room, that pursuer comes into the living room. You go to the kitchen, you know, that pursuer is after you there, and you're in the kitchen for 5 seconds, 30 seconds, and then you go to the great room, and you end up locking yourself in the bathroom, and they're knocking on the door, right? You can't get away from them. That's the same theory that these bucks are going through right now. They cannot physically find a place to call home. Now, that's where your habitat, your work in the off season needs to be prepared and be prepped right now to shine through. Most cases, those bucks that are seeking this chase, this being bumped all over the map, aren't finding their comfort zone, or they don't have a place to call home because the habitat isn't correct. So tonight, just take from this video that the number one reason why bucks transition this time of the year has very little to do, not 50%, more like 75%, 80% to do with pressure, and only 20% to do with the changing of a food source, such as the acorns dropping and the mass production oaks taking over, and the deer just leaving your food plots because they want to go to the oaks, and every deer across the entire country is going to the oaks. Well, here's the deal. The oaks across the country, there's 4 different major divisions, or 4 major areas to the whitetail range. The oaks all produce different at a different time all the way across the range, the whitetail range. They're all dropping at different times because of the climate, because of elevation, but for whatever reason, all the deer transition to the oaks at the same time in every state at the same time. It doesn't happen. So it's hard to point your finger at yourself. It's hard to take that into consideration, that you are the source. If you're watching this video, if you follow myself or any other videos out there, hopefully you're not the one doing this. You're the one watching this, or you're the one sitting in the truck like I was tonight with one hunt into a 20-day season, and getting ready for what's coming on Wednesday this week, when I'm going to be in a stand, in a fresh stand. And if there is going to be a chance that something new is going to show up, he may already be there because I haven't pulled the camera, but Wednesday, I guarantee you, something somewhere within a quarter mile or a half mile of that farm will be daylighting at the correct time, and I'm going to be in a fresh stand. But you have to understand the difference between a fresh stand and a overrun stand. So it's something that doesn't come overnight. It's something that comes with it's that fine wine. thing, you know what I mean? It gets better with age. You have to see this firsthand. You have to be from a high pressured state such as Michigan to really understand this. And then when you get a chance to live in a state like Kentucky and take advantage of what I'm doing right now, or hunt in an area like this, whether you live there or not, and you see this and you start connecting the dots together, it is the real deal. It's the truth. So here's the truth about why bucks transition at such a high rate of speed this time of the year. It's because of pressure. Yes, it has to do with food, the changing, the more relatively available, but just keep that in mind. The next time that you hear or you flip on social media and you look at that and everybody's talking about it, you pick about 6 different people and you look and they're from all over the country, and them acorns are all dropping at different times, and it's not food changing related in most cases. It's pressure related. So a lot of these videos that you see on this channel are going to be geared towards breaking that bad habit of pressure. How do you cure this? So at the end of it here, and then we'll be on to the next one. How to cure that? The way to cure that is to have that transition promoted, whether it's not timber related or cutting the timber in and opening that canopy and letting that regeneration. Is if it's just connecting the transition and promoting the transition with your licking branches and hunting from the outside in, having those licking branches, those water holes, that mineral, that all of that established on that transition, staying on the outside. If you have penetrated past here's a test. If you have penetrated past the transition as of September 20th and went in the interior of your core, your property, you have went too far, period. Now, can you tell me without a doubt that this was my transition line that I crossed? The sad part of it is most folks don't have that knowledge or have that ability to say, yes, this was my transition line, and I went past it. So if you're watching this and you're one of those, don't feel poked at. Take this into consideration. And why I'm feeling so strongly about this is because, yet again, 20 days into a season, or the 20th day of September, 16 days into a season such as here in Kentucky, is folks are seeing this already firsthand. So it doesn't matter where you're at across the country, it's the truth. And once you realize the truth and you accept the truth that the transition does not happen because changing of food, and it's all related to pressure, it's related to the chase, the push, you'll be a much more successful hunter. And then you can look forward to the weather fronts and have a chance to be in the driver's seat when that stuff happens. So appreciate you tuning in here. We'll try to shorten this, keep this one as short as we can. A lot of powerful message in this one, but like I said, the reason that this is so strong is because if you fix it now, you have a chance to have a great rest of the season. But if you continue on with the pattern that most folks do, you're going to have a long-winded remainder of the season. So thanks for tuning in, guys. We got a great weather front here coming through this part of the country this week, and it looks like I've been hearing that same report from folks all the way up into Wisconsin. So hopefully you're able to get in the stand, take advantage of it this week, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.